Hello, my lovely K-Bays. How are you guys doing today? I hope you guys are doing great. Today's story is going to be about two little sweet, precious baby boys named Orrin and Orson West. So in 2018, Trezell and Jacqueline West would become the foster parents of two sweet little boys named Orrin and Orson. Well, in 2019, they decided to adopt these precious boys. The family was a happy little family. There was 6 kids in total. Trezell and Jacqueline, they had 2 biological children. They had 2 other children that they either adopted or were fostering, and then they had the sweet little Orrin and Orson boys. The family lived in Bakersfield, California. Well, in September 2020, they would move to California City to start a new life. New home, new city, new life. Everything was going perfect. It took the West family months to move in and get everything settled, but things seemed to be going pretty well. But right before Christmas of 2020, tragedy would strike. December 21st, 2020, Trezell and Jacqueline would say that Trezell went outside to chop firewood and gather firewood to bring into the family to keep them warm and toasty. Jacqueline was inside the house, sitting on the floor, wrapping Christmas presents for the family. The 2 boys, Orrin and Orson West, would come outside with the father, Trezell, to use chalk and play on the sidewalk area, play on the pavement. While he was outside doing wood stuff, they were having their little fun over there. Well, Trezell said he had to go in to bring some firewood in and, do a couple things in there, and then he was going to come back outside. He said as he was walking into the house, he looked back and they were there. They were still there playing with chalk. So he proceeded to go in. He seen his wife there wrapping presents. And then when he went back outside, the boys were nowhere to be found. He said he instantly panicked and started looking around the yard, came in and started looking all around the house, and then he told his wife, "I cannot find the boys. Have you seen them? Where'd they go?" So Jacqueline and Trezell both decided to start looking at this point, searched the whole house and backyard from top to bottom, and that's when Trezell would notice he had left the gate unlatched, and he thinks that the children may have got out of the gate because it was unlatched. When the couple could not find the boys, Trezell decided to get into his white van and drive around like the area, the neighborhood, the block, all that stuff, to look for the boys to see if maybe they were walking around and they had got out of the gate and were just wandering. Well, there was no luck. Trezell never seen the boys. So he got back home. His wife, Jacqueline, called the police. The investigators instantly got to work searching for the boys. They came out there, they started looking around, the couple started looking around, and there was still no luck. Nobody could spot these precious baby boys. So the FBI soon got involved. There was nothing that made it look like a crime other than the boys just vanishing, and there was really no leads. It was really hard to figure out what in the world happened and where these sweet boys were. Orrin and Orson's biological mother and father would both get involved in trying to help find these boys. Their biological mother would come to Bakersfield to help look for the boys as well. And before you're like, what? They moved to California City. Why are you saying Bakersfield? Now that's where I was confused too. But let me tell you, this is what I'm going to tell you. They did move to California City, and investigators and FBI and all that stuff were helping look around California City for the boys. Well, apparently there was some evidence and some tips that they cannot release. They said they can't release it, that made Bakersfield police and investigators and all that decide that they also needed to get involved and start searching around Bakersfield and the couple's old home. So that is why there is also a search in Bakersfield as well as California City, because apparently evidence that they can't release has told them that, you need to be searching both areas. December 23rd, just 2 days after the boys went missing, Jacqueline would say that they don't just roam around, that they definitely would have had to been picked up or something. Yet that was almost instantly contradicted when Jacqueline and Trezell would say that the boys were probably roaming around the desert or something. So on December 23rd, Jacqueline and Trezell would give a public interview, and many people stated that their behavior, their body language, the way they were acting was just suspicious, and they just felt like something wasn't right. Now, I am by no means taking up for them. I don't know what they've done, what they're about. But I do try to look at both sides of things. A lot of people did talk about how Jacqueline was moving around a lot and shaking her head and stuff like that. They had jackets on and stuff. So even though, they might have been in a deserty part of the state or whatever, at night usually it gets kind of cold. So from what I remember, I don't know, I'm not that educated on places, but anyways, it looked like it was cold there. There was no leaves on the trees. They were all bundled up in jackets, blah 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 blah. So her bouncing around and stuff could have been just simply her trying to stay warm. They also mentioned Trezell hugging himself during the interview, and a lot of people would compare that to the Chris Watts case, where he also was kind of hugging himself when he talked. People that are guilty will sometimes keep their arms really tight or crossed, kind of like they're hugging themselves as a comforting for them, to help them kind of feel better and calm down in the situation. So a lot of people were looking at Trezell, having his arms crossed and kind of holding himself as a sign that he might be guilty, or just kind of a weird sign, weird body language. A lot of people would also look at the fact that when Trezell was explaining a lot about what happened that night, it seemed like he was almost trying to tell everybody what he was doing and when he was doing it and where he was at, to make himself look more innocent. Instead of focusing more on the boys and their safety, he was focusing more on himself and trying to make sure everybody knew, like, hey, I was here, I was doing this, and la 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 la.
Tell us what happened the night the kids went missing.
Okay.
From our yard.
Okay. It was cold. I was gonna make a fire. There's a lot of wood in this area right here next to our house. I opened up the back gate. I'm throwing wood, bringing it inside the house. My wife's inside. She was actually wrapping gifts, so we thought it was a good idea that our youngest two would go outside and play with chalk on the back patio. Do not let them go on the dirt in the backyard. We keep them close. So I was playing with chalk, and I came in the house. I saw them there. I went in the house. I came back out. I didn't see them now. I immediately went back in, asked my wife, did you see the boys? She said, no, they should be outside playing with chalk. I said, well, I didn't see them, so I came back outside and I started searching my backyard. I searched the whole thing. I realized that I left the gate open, and I panicked, came inside the house, searched the house, me and my wife. Once that didn't pan out, I got in the van. I looked down the street, both directions. It was getting dark, getting cold, and I got in the van and I hit a bunch of corners. I went down this street. I turned my light on. I searched. I called their names. Talked to a gentleman on the street on the other side over there. He didn't see anyone. So then I came home and I told my wife we need to call the cops. It's getting dark and I need help. We gotta get going. So I called the cops. Cops came. First thing they did was tell us to stay in the house so they can get a hold of us. And they had us just sitting there, and we wanted to keep searching. But everybody came out in droves, and I wanted to thank you guys that night, but we couldn't go outside.
The cops told us the best are out here.
The best are out here searching, and we appreciate it, and nobody ever could tell, we could never talk to anybody, and that was the issue.
We just want to thank everybody.
We really want to thank you guys.
Please, if anybody has seen them, please call, let somebody know.
Call the cops. Call California's the city police department. Call them and let them know what you've seen, if you see anything.
Attention was also drawn to the fact that Jacqueline didn't immediately express concern for the boys, but more or less for her and her husband, talking about how helpless they felt. They focused more on themselves. Both of them, they did, according to a lot of speculators and, commenters and people that watched the interview.
We felt so helpless. Yeah, we seriously felt like we needed to be out here. We did. Again, we were told the best are out here looking already. Just to stay put, they have more questions. There was literally a cop with us the whole time in there.
He had sitting down. We would ask him to go help. They had to sit
Said
down.
nope.
He said, no, we got the best out there.
So
we
it's
need
not,
you guys here in case we have more questions.
I don't want you guys thinking we
don't.
didn't try. We actually
We
looked
tried.
before we called
We
the
looked,
police.
yes.
We're going through it. It's difficult. I mean, everybody's making their own their own conclusions. They don't know anything. We're not sure like everything. We're not sure. We said what we knew, and if anybody has seen them or anything, please call the police department.
It was like they were building an alibi for themselves and trying to have people sympathize with them more and look at them as, the parents that lost their babies and, were hurt. A lot of people focused on Trezell telling the story about what happened and him saying that they were outside, and then when he went into the house he saw them there, and then when he came back outside they weren't there. They were like, why is he saying they were outside but he was also saying they were in the house?
They was playing with chalk, and I came in the house. I saw them there. I went in the house. I came back out. I didn't see them there.
Personally, I don't think that's what he was saying. I think he was saying that the boys were outside playing chalk and he was going into the house, went into the house. They were there as in they were still there playing chalk when he went into the house. So he was like checking on them as he was walking in. But a lot of other people think he meant that they were outside playing with chalk and then when he went to the house they were there, and his story isn't matching up. However, it just don't, to me, I'm not taking up for them or anything. I'm just saying by watching the interview, I feel like he was saying they were there as in they were playing with chalk. Now, a lot of people noticed that Trezell and Jacqueline would kind of stumble over present and past tense.
They are going to be here in this area. They are our children, and so we want them back.
People that are looking for someone that's missing, they think they're still here. They think they're still around, so they usually still refer to them as if they are still here and are still around. They will say stuff like, they are so beautiful, they are so amazing, yada yada yada. Whereas the person that's usually guilty of doing something to them and knows they're not still around will say stuff like, they were so beautiful, they were so amazing. And that's usually a red flag to investigators and stuff, because they're like, they're referring to them like they're not here anymore, which might mean that they've done something because they know they're not here anymore. You know what I mean? And that was a red flag to a lot of people. So dogs were brought to the house. The house was checked out and stuff, and there was just no evidence. The dogs only smelt the boys' scent inside the home, nowhere outside of the home. They also brought cadaver dogs, which are dogs that, smell out deceased people and the deceased, and they didn't come onto anything. They didn't smell anything. They just had no leads. Now, all the neighbors would say that, like all of them would say that they'd never even seen the boys, which was really kind of crazy. Now, I don't know if they meant both in Bakersfield and California City, or just in California City, or what, but that's still strange regardless. And the investigators had gotten over 20 search warrants for like different houses and people and stuff, and still they had nothing. They dug up the whole backyard of the couple's homes, never found anything. They had went around a lot of areas in the town and dug up. They did find 2 human remains in different spots, but these 2 human remains were not Orrin and Orson. But hopefully, it's a little bit of closure for whoever's family member or loved one that was, and that is so sad, but I'm glad at least they found them though. Also, they found, like animals being buried, like sheep and dogs and stuff that passed away and farmers or people would bury in the ground. But they never found anything related to Orrin and Orson. Sometime after the boys' disappearance, the couple and I guess their other boys would move back to Bakersfield, and the police and investigators said the couple was really cooperative with them. They were going to do a lie detector test with them too, but it was never like revealed if they actually went through with that or not. So one of the neighbors came forward with some security footage, and it showed Trezell leaving the house in the white van like he said he did, and then coming back like 6 minutes later and the cops arriving and stuff. And two figures approached the cop vehicle, which were believed to be Jacqueline and Trezell. Then after they talked to the cops a minute, Trezell would leave again to go search for the boys, while the police would go into their backyard and search around their house. The timestamp was an hour off, but everything seemed pretty consistent with Trezell's story.
Security camera footage of a neighbor to Trezell and Jacqueline West shows on December 21st at 5:53, Trezell starts looking for the boys around the neighborhood. The neighbor admits the timestamp on the security camera footage is 1 hour off.
What appears right here is someone, I'm assuming by his statement, is Trezell getting into a white van in front of the property and exiting. And it looks like he makes a left turn and goes eastbound on Aspen.
Trezell comes back to the home 6 minutes later. Fast forward to 5:53, California City Police arrive.
This is 5:53. So can you tell me?
5:53 is consistent again. We received the call at 5:48, and we were on scene within 5 minutes. So that makes absolute sense. And it looks like, I'm assuming Trezell and Jacqueline walking up to the police car and discussing with my officer, giving him information of what they've reported.
Trezell gets in his van and looks for the boys around the neighborhood more, while the officer looks for Orrin and Orson with a flashlight in the backyard.
I'm absolutely confident at this point my officer is beginning his search where the kids were seen last, and that would be in the backyard.
We saw dogs on the other side of the fence. We did not see children on the other side of the fence. So not saying they weren't in the backyard, just from the security cam footage and the angle the camera was at, we could not see children through an outline or anything on the other side of the fence. Is that same with police?
Yeah, that's a correct statement.
A lot of people wonder though, why did he just leave for 6 minutes, come back home, and then 10 minutes after that they called the police? A lot of people are kind of wondering what was up with all that, I guess. So more security footage would come forward from a neighbor. I believe this was in California City, because it was said it was 2 days before the boys were reported missing, and the couple said that they were taking the family to Bakersfield to do some Christmas shopping. Well, in the footage 2 days before the boys were reported missing, it shows two adults opening the white van door and only 4 children getting in, and then them driving off. Later that evening, the van would come back, and what is assumed to be Trezell and Jacqueline got back out of the vehicle, and no children were with them at all. So if only 4 children got in the vehicle, where were the other 2? They had 6 children, and the other 2 were Orson and Orrin, as we assume. Where were they? This was 2 days before they were even reported missing.
This video, you can see an adult holding the door open while 4 children go into the van. Then later that day, 2 adults, which appear to be Trezell and Jacqueline, come back to the house without any kids. Chief Walker says the Wests say they dropped off 4 of their children, not including Orrin and Orson, at a family member's house that day. Walker says that day, December 19th, was the last day the other 4 children say they saw Orrin and Orson.
Trezell and Jacqueline would explain that they did drop only 4 of the boys off at a family member's home, and they did not take Orrin and Orson, but they never did explain or say where the boys were. Wanda West, the adopted grandparent of Orrin and Orson, did come forward and say that Jacqueline and Trezell were very good parents as far as she's concerned. But get this crazy thing though. The other 4 children, not including Orrin and Orson obviously, claimed that on December 19th, which was 2 days before the boys were reported missing, they claimed that on December 19th was the last time any of them 4 children saw Orrin and Orson. So where were these boys, and why did they report them missing way after they went missing? It is starting to be thought by a lot of people that the boys, Orrin and Orson, never even lived in California City. That whatever happened to them happened in Bakersfield. And like I said, they started the investigation looking for the missing boys in California City, where they were called and the boys were reported missing. But some evidence that, like I said, they cannot release yet, not until the trial, has led them to believe they need to be searching around Bakersfield as well. Jacqueline and Trezell would both be arrested for 2 counts of second-degree murder, willful cruelty to a child, and 1 count of falsely reporting an emergency. If convicted of the most serious charges, Trezell and Jacqueline could face 30 years to life in prison. Trial is set to begin May 23rd, and guys, I'm ready to hear this trial. Now, a lot of people are like, what do you mean they're arrested for murder? They haven't even found the boys. They haven't. They have not found them. But according to investigators and police and stuff like that, they said that they have enough evidence to arrest them for murdering the 2 boys. Now, when asked what the evidence was, they said that they could not speak about it whatsoever, not until the trial, I guess if even on the trial. A lady that worked in the investigation field or something like that did say that there has been quite a few arrests for no-body murders, that it can happen if you have enough evidence to prove that the person had been murdered by, you know, the murderers or whatever. Like, so they got them on evidence for murdering these 2 sweet boys, but they still haven't found the 2 boys. So I'm going to put the info in the description and on the screen. So if anybody knows anything, they can call authorities and tell them something. You can call authorities and tell them anything you know about the case, and you can do that discreetly and privately. You do not have to give your name or none of that stuff. If you know anything, please, 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 guys, report it, tell somebody, and help find these boys or their precious bodies. I absolutely feel for the biological parents because, man, I know how crazy child services can be. Like, I'm not saying anything bad about them. Sometimes they're really good, sometimes not so much. But I just can't imagine how devastated I would be if they took my children from me and my children got adopted by another family and then ended up going missing. Like, this is just absolutely heartbreaking. Now, the 4 other children are in protective custody, and I really hope the best for these sweet babies. I hope everything goes great for them. You know, I hope their life gets better, and whatever happened, I really hope they didn't have to be a part of it, and I really hope they aren't, like, scarred for life from something. Like, I feel so bad. Like, I really hope Orrin and Orson's bodies found. I hope they're alive. Things point to they probably aren't, you know, but I do hope their bodies are found just for a little bit of a closure. I kind of hate saying that because, you know, nothing's ever gonna be a closure, but especially to a parent or somebody that loves somebody and lost somebody. But, you know, I just hope something comes to light and helps figure out what happened to these boys and at least get their bodies so they can have a proper burial, or if they're alive, a proper home and love. So guys, sorry I'm all a mess today, but I really wanted to get this video out there so that, you know, everybody can, you know, if you have anything to say to the authorities or have any clues still about these boys, please do the right thing and tell authorities. It has been it's been forever since this happened, it seems, and these poor babies still have not been found. So with that being said, guys, I'm sorry this was another sad story, but I love to bring awareness, to help, to find missing people, to solve cold cases or just new cases. You know, we can do so much if we come together as a community and share these stories and really, you know, get involved. If you want to get involved and you want to help out and you want to be a part of my community, please hit that subscribe button though, because I have so many more stories coming to you. I'm going to try my best to always get 1 to 2 stories out a week, along with some shorts as well, YouTube shorts. So if you're into this kind of channel, please hit subscribe. Hit that bell button if you want to be notified of when I post videos. Also, hit the like button on this video to help a girl out. Because guys, if you hit the like button and you're active on my videos, it will help spread the videos, which means it will spread the story, and maybe we can get these precious babies found. If you guys have a story you want me to share, whether it's your own story, a friend's story, or you know, a popular type story about a victim, a serial killer, a jail story, a prison story, a insane asylum story, anything associated with stuff on this channel, please email me and I will totally love to get with you and create a video and tell your story, regardless if you want to be in it or not. Shoot, if you want to be in it, come on, we'll do a FaceTime, we'll talk about the story, and hey, I'll post it. I love you guys more than you ever know. I appreciate you so much for supporting me on this channel and being here and watching this video, as well as liking and subscribing, because all that helps too. I hope to build a community that can help others, you know, bring missing people home, solve some cases, and all that good stuff. So I really appreciate you. If you are here watching this, you share, like, or subscribe, you are amazing. I love you guys more than you could ever know. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.